Welcome to Toy Polloi. Parental guidance. This video contains scenes of Lego destruction.
Hello and welcome to another video from Toy Polloi, and in today's video we are going to be trying to repair this vintage Masters of the Universe Spydor. Now this is an intriguing toy because it is actually a walking spider. You put batteries in it and it moves along, but that means there are lots of issues, and I think the Spydor I have here has pretty much all the issues you would ever need to sort of fix up on one of these. So let's get straight on with the project and take a look at what needs repairing, and then we'll see if we can get it all working again. So here is the Spydor that I've got, and as you can see he is in a pretty sorry state. The mechanism should move all of these sort of axles on the side which the legs click into, and on this one we've got one that is broken, we've got one that is loose I think. Oh no, this one is loose at the back. This shouldn't be loose, you should not be able to move it because it has a post that goes inside and attaches to a few gears. If it's like that then something is broken. I think that one is also broken, so we're going to have to take this apart. And actually if I give this a shake, you can hear there's all sorts of things inside rattling around. We've also got one of the pincers at the front is broken, but luckily I do have that part. We're missing the two guns here, and I've been able to source a couple of those, but you can see the pegs have broken off, so I've got to remove those. And generally we've just got to get this thing working. I've tried putting batteries in this one and it doesn't work at all, but I do have another here which is in slightly sort of different sort of condition. This one has got an eye missing. I put some batteries in this one and it does work, which is going to be quite useful because it means I can actually see if I can work out what's going wrong between this one and that one. But again, this one has all sorts of broken posts and things, so we're going to have to do a lot of work to get both of these back up and running. Now I've already shown you in a previous video how I've repaired some of the legs, so if you want to see how I've stuck those back together then do check that out. I'll put a link to that in the description. Before we actually take these two apart, I'm going to give everything a good wash. All of the legs I've got are really filthy, so they need to be washed and cleaned, and these two Spydor bodies are pretty filthy as well. There's a lot of dirt and grime all inside all of the nooks and crannies on them, so I'm going to give those a wash as well. Because they are electronic, I'm not going to be submerging them in water. I will just be using a toothbrush and a cloth to gently sort of put hot soapy water all over them, clean them up as best I can. When we take them apart, it maybe I clean them again, but I just want to get these sort of in a clean state before we start taking anything apart. So let's give everything a good clean, and then we can start disassembling them and see if we can work out what's wrong with the insides. Everything's now looking a whole lot cleaner, and it gives me a chance to sort of really check over the toys to see exactly what's wrong. On the broken claws on the front of this one, there was some sort of strange black paint maybe or something like that, and it's really proving hard to get rid of. I've managed to scrape most of it off this one, but you can see the claw that's left on the main part of Spydor here still has this black stuff on it, and I'm hoping when I take this apart I can actually remove these claws, because I think maybe soaking them in brake fluid will get this off, because I think it is paint but it's just really well held on, so we'll worry about that later. Now we need to actually take one of these apart, and as I know the motor in this one works, this will be the first one that I take apart, because I've just got to replace this one broken post here. So let's undo the screws on this and see what happens. So looking at this, we can see that there are 9 screws on the bottom. And it looks like this middle section where all of the sort of the gearing and motors are is going to be a separate piece. My reckoning is that there are 2 halves to this. We've got the top and the bottom half, which will be, when we undo those 9 screws, those will come apart. That will give us access to these posts, and then the main sort of workings are in this separate clear container in the middle. That's my guess anyway, and the only way to find out is to undo the screws and see what happens, and then we can hopefully find out what that rattling piece is. I think it's going to be the remains of this post here. These should have a post that points inwards. I've actually got a few of them spare, which I'll show you later on, but yeah, I reckon that is snapped off at some point, and that is what we can hear rattling around inside. So yeah, let's just undo these screws and see what we find. Okay, so as you can see, I've now got it all in pieces. It actually wasn't too hard to do. Take out the 9 screws. Of those screws, you only have to be aware of one of them, which is this one, which is just a little bit shorter, and that was the screw at the front. And then there are 2 sections of the body, the top and the bottom, as I'd guessed. So we take the top and the bottom off. Took a little bit of prizing to get these apart because there's an awful lot of posts inside, so you have to sort of gently twist it about until you can release the top section from the bottom section. And then inside we have this whole sort of gearbox, which is everything that runs the Spydor. And then there are these 6 leg posts, of which immediately I can see one is broken and the other one at the front has been bent as well. There's a sort of a bend there and it's snapped partially. It should actually look like this one, which has quite a pronounced bend in it. But otherwise, everything is working, and this gearbox is actually pretty fascinating. I've just put some batteries in so we can watch it working. If I switch this switch here, pushing it upwards makes the Spydor go forwards, and pushing it backwards makes the Spydor go backwards. So let's push this and we'll see all of the gears moving. It's really pretty fascinating. It's a very clever design. So all of these little posts go in these sockets here, and that's what makes the legs sort of move up and down and move forwards and backwards and basically create the walking motion. So as soon as one of those is broken, which is what's happened here, or one of them is bent, we have an issue. But luckily I have a bag of spare ones. Someone else has broken up a Spydor, and I did a trade recently, so I've got a whole selection of spare ones which we will be able to swap in with those broken ones. I don't think these are fixable. They're made out of a more sort of nylon-y type plastic, and essentially all of the force of the vehicle goes through these. So if that's a weak point, it's just going to snap again. So I think replacing them may be the only option. But before we actually put this one back together, I want to take the other Spydor apart to see if we can work out why that one isn't working. It could just be that the motor needs manually turning over by hand. That's the case with a lot of Star Wars vehicles. These motors, if they're not used for a long time, you get a lot of sort of corrosion and stuff, and the brushes get very dirty. And just by rotating the end of the motor by hand, and in this it's very easy because there's a load of gears here, you can just push this gear and that will spin the motor. That may be enough to clean the brushes and get that motor working. I also noticed on the other one I have that the contacts are pretty corroded on either side of the battery. So let's take it apart and we'll see if we can work out why that one's not working. Then we can get both of these put back together.
Polloi, that is incorrect. Try again.
So this one certainly has a lot more damage to it. Of the 6 leg posts, 3 of them aren't broken, the rest are in pieces. So there's a lot that needs replacing there. I'm hoping I have enough to actually replace all of these. That again is what they should look like, and these ones have snapped in various different places. So there's not a lot you can do apart from replace those. Then we come on to the gearbox. The gearbox actually looks pretty good. If I run the motor just by hand, you can see everything is turning around. I think it will just be dirty brushes on that, and chances are, just having done that, run the motor just a little bit with my finger there, it may just work. But we also have some really corroded contacts. A battery has been left in this at one point, and you can see there's corrosion on this contact. I did try to clean it off when I first tried this, so you can see there's a sort of a cleaner piece on one side, but there's a lot of corrosion there, so we will get rid of that. There's also some corrosion on this wire here that goes over the top and to the other side of the contact, so that's where the batteries go. You've got battery either side. And yeah, I think if we clean those, it may just work again. So I'm going to go and get some vinegar, and I'll put the ends of these cables in the vinegar, and that should dissolve the corrosion that's on them, and then we can give them a clean up as well. I also have a contact cleaner here which we can use to scrape off any other dirt. And then once that's done, we'll try some batteries in this and see if it just works. I have a feeling it will. There doesn't appear to be anything wrong with the motor. There's no broken wires. The motor looks pretty clean. The switch itself, again, looks pretty reasonable. I can't see any sort of corrosion particularly on that. So let's just clean these contacts and see what happens. So I've cleaned all the contacts as you saw, and vinegar is great for getting off the old corrosion from batteries. And you can see that contact that was completely encrusted is now nice and clean again. I've just given it a quick sand as well, so there's a nice contact there. I've cleaned these as well, just using a little bit of sandpaper, and on this side as well. Put new batteries in. Let's give this motor a quick sort of few turns before we switch any power on. Doing that will clean the brushes, as I mentioned, so let's try that a few times. Let's switch this on, see if it works. Look at that. It's going. Maybe not permanently, but it is going. Pretty good. So there you go, that's all it needed. Cleaning the contacts, running the motor a little bit by hand. We've got this one working as well. Bit flaky possibly. We still got a dodgy contact somewhere. Oh, maybe there's a dodgy wire there. That just looked like I was touching something. Okay, it looks like we have a dodgy wire here. There may be a broken contact or something. So I'm going to actually have to take this apart and do a little bit of soldering, which is something I didn't want to do just because there's so many gears and things. Maybe I can take this side off without having to take all of the gears out and just get to the switch there, but it feels like there's a dodgy connection. Let me just try that again. Yeah, one of those is dodgy. Which one is it? Yeah, okay, that's a little bit annoying, so I'm just going to quickly do that. It shouldn't take too long to do. We'll re-solder those joints on the switch. Looks like there's something not making a perfect contact, but at least we have it working. So there you go, I've just resoldered the joints on that switch, and it does seem to have fixed it. I didn't bother taking any of the gears out because that's just a whole extra level of work that was not needed for this repair. So resoldered those joints. I've resoldered the joints actually on the contact as well. We can try this again. That seems to be working. Let's do it the other way. And if I twiddle these wires, yeah, there's no loose joint there now. It was just a cracked solder joint on that switch. But that is all now working. We can start to work on some of the other problems on this Spydor. The front pincers on this one are snapped, but luckily I do have the piece that's snapped off. Somebody has tried to glue this at one point, and obviously that's failed because it's a very weak place to glue, and we're going to have to do a repair on it to make it a lot stronger. You can't use plastic weld on this type of plastic. It's the wrong type. You can see there's quite a bit of flex to it. It feels a bit more sort of nylon-y, I suppose. So we will have to pin and glue this. I'll drill some holes into this and insert some bits of paperclip. I'll drill holes in this side as well, and then we can glue that together. It's not going to be the strongest of fixes, probably more for display than for play, but at least it will work. And now that I've actually got everything apart, I can take this off as well and try and remove this last little bit of paint. There's just a tiny spring that goes between these two pieces to give it that sort of spring-loaded action. So we just take those off of those posts, and then I'm going to hopefully just be able to scrape that off just using a plastic tool here. If that doesn't work, I will use some brake fluid or something like that, but it feels like it's sort of starting to come off, but it's fairly sticky still, so yeah, it's going to take a little bit of work. So let's take these claws off. I think we just have to push that up like that. Keep hold of the spring, because I don't want it to spring anywhere, like so. Is that? Oh, I might as well leave it on that one just so I don't lose it. So yeah, I can scrape that off, and we'll drill some holes in these pieces and try and get them joined back together. There's a bit of glue residue on this. I think it's most likely been glued with super glue, judging by what's there. So we'll try and scrape some of that off, but we'll get a few holes drilled in that. And it's never going to be the neatest thing, but it will work, which is about all we can sort of hope for in this instance. And there you go, that's not looking too bad at all. I've used a little bit of paint just to hide over where I had to glue it, and there's some old glue residue on there that I couldn't remove, so I put a clear coat on top of that, and that seems to have hidden most of it. And that's, yeah, it's pretty reasonable. It's not a perfect repair, but certainly good enough for display. And these now work again. I wouldn't actually put too much pressure on this one, even though I've sort of pinned it, but if you push this one, they do open, and it's, yeah, going to be as good as it's going to get. Maybe one day I'll find another replacement for this claw. That was the original plan with this, was to find a replacement, but as I've actually got enough to make 2 of these, I've decided to fix this one anyway. So yeah, that is pretty good. We can now go ahead and start putting these Spydor bodies back together. Okay, so here is the first Spydor. This is the one without the broken claws on the front. We know this motor all works. We've now just got to start putting in all of the bits that actually move the legs. Here are the ones that I took out of it. And as I said at the start, some of these are broken. That one is bent, so I'm going to not use that. We possibly could straighten it, but as I've got some spares, I'm going to put that to one side. That one is obviously broken, so that's no use. We have this one, which is looking pretty good. So this is a straight one, and this goes in the middle. And if you look at the side of the toy, you can see there's a little hole there on one of the gears, and you have to put that end in the hole there and then slot the rest into this sort of portion here on the side of the body, because then when we rotate this, if I rotate it, you'll see that everything starts to move around. We then have 2 that are angled, and you want the angled bits pointing outwards essentially. So this piece needs to go towards the back of this one, and again you can see there's a hole there, so we drop that little post in there, and we do the same with this one, so it's got to point that way to the left, and there's a hole there as well, so we just drop that in. That's one side done. So if I run these, all of those legs should move around, which they do. So we can now turn this around. We'll do the same on the other side essentially. So this is the middle post. This one isn't broken, so I can just put that one back in. Again, there's a little hole there. The colour plastic is different on this side, so this is yellow as opposed to orange. So we drop that one in there. And now I need to go into my bag of spares and find 2 of the angled pieces. Just tip those out that aren't damaged or broken, and we will just have to use replacements. It would be nice to repair the original ones, but because these have so much force put onto them, I just don't think it's possible. Whatever you do is going to break again. So here we have 2 replacements. Again, we just drop those in like so and like so, and those now, if I run this, should all start to move correctly. That looks pretty good to me. So we take the top, that just drops over the top, and this will be a little bit of a wiggle to get everything to line up, because there are an awful lot of posts and things that sort of have to line up. So I'm going to sort of wiggle it carefully, make sure I don't knock any of these leg posts out of the way, and just keep going until it clicks in place, and then we can add all of the screws in. Feels pretty good. There we go, that feels good. So I can turn this over, I'll put all of the screws in. As I said at the start, there is one shorter screw in here, which is this one, and that goes in that front hole. All of the others are the same length. So let's screw all of these up, and we can give it a quick test just by putting some batteries in. I won't be attaching the legs because we've still got more to do. And there we go, just like that. I now have 2 working Spydors. So let's just test them both and see them moving. Yep, they work. It's quite a racket, but they do work. So we now move on to the next thing, which is fixing the guns. And the first thing we've got to do for that is remove these 2 broken posts. And to do that, we need to drill a very small hole into the end of these, and then we can screw a screw into that hole, and hopefully we should just be able to pull those pieces out. It's normally the best way of doing it, because otherwise you'd have to drill out the whole piece. But I think just drilling a small hole in, putting a screw in, and we can pull those out easy enough. Now we come to the guns, and this is one of the guns with the post broken off that we've just removed. And it just so happens that Lego is the perfect size to fit in that hole. So this is a Lego antenna, and I could just drill that and screw it and place it on there, but there's actually a better piece, which is a Lego whip antenna, because this has the same diameter piece at the bottom and then a 2mm diameter pole at the top. So I can trim a piece of this off, we'll drill a 2mm diameter hole in there, we can stick that in, and that will be the new post for this gun. The end result will match pretty well. This is a slightly clear sort of red plastic. You can in fact get clear red plastic Lego pieces, but I don't happen to have any at the moment, so this solid red one will do, as everything's going to be hidden inside anyway. So let's get cutting and drilling. So there we go, you can see the guns are now attached and they're looking pretty good. A bit of Lego is often all you need to fix things like that, and in this instance I didn't even glue the Lego in place. Just pushing the Lego into place was enough of a snug fit for it to hold. So yeah, there are those guns all fixed up. Now we need to sort out a way to replace this missing eye cover. The eye covers are really quite unique on this. They just clip on. You can see we've got this nice pattern, and it's made out of a sort of clearish red plastic. And I've been thinking, what on earth can I use to make something like that? And then it occurred to me I'd actually bought something for my cat, which she completely ignores, so it's fine if I cut it up. And that was this. It's a sort of little disco ball LED light set, and you can see that the pattern on it is pretty close to that original eyeball. So I'm hoping that I can just cut off the top section of this, and then we can sort of shape it in some way, maybe paint the inside, and that will make a pretty good sort of replacement little eye. These I bought off eBay. It cost £2 or £3, and it's supposed to be a disco light. If I plug it into my phone here, you'll see exactly what it does. It starts flashing. It's all sort of disco-y lights and LEDs. I thought my cat might like this and find it quite entertaining. She doesn't, so now we are going to cut this up. So let's try and cut off a section of this and see if we can make an eye out of it. Right, that has worked way better than I thought. In fact, I think if you were replacing both of the eyes, you wouldn't even notice that that was a replacement. At the moment, it's a little bit obvious because you can see that one's slightly more sort of opaque, but I think that is a very pleasing result indeed. What I ended up doing was cutting the top sort of section off, sanding it down, sanding around the edges. I tried painting the inside, but I just couldn't get a colour that matched. So in the end, the simplest option is just to use a red marker pen. So I've coloured the inside with a red marker pen, and then I've loosely stuck this in place using some canopy glue. Now, canopy glue is the sort of glue that you glue canopies on model aeroplanes. It dries clear, so I've just put a thin strip of that around the edge of this and stuck it on, and I'm waiting for that to dry. But you can see that is very nice indeed. I'm really happy with how that has turned out. As I say, if I'd replaced both of them, I don't think you would notice, but because I have sort of 3 different eyes here, you can sort of spot it. But I think at first glance you possibly wouldn't. So it may be I buy myself another of these and I'll replace that one for the moment until I find a spare. But that, yeah, I'm really happy with that. So I'm just going to let that dry overnight, and then we can sort out the stickers. Spydor only has 3 stickers. It's got this little emblem on the front and then 2 control panels. I found a scan of the original sticker sheet, so I've taken that into Photoshop and tidied it up. I've now printed that out onto some glossy sticky backed printer paper, and I'm going to cut those out and put them onto the Spydor that doesn't have any stickers. Once that's all done, we can then start clicking these legs in place, and the legs really should be quite simple to attach. They just click in, so I'll get all of those clicked on, and we'll take a look at the finished Spydor and check out if it actually walks properly. And here we go, here is the finished Spydor, and it really is quite an imposing toy. By the time you put the legs on it, it stands pretty tall and it's a pretty bulky looking thing, and it does weigh an awful lot, which I'm guessing is why the legs are always broken on this, because even without batteries in, the body part of it has got quite a heft to it. So I think when I display this finally, I will have to make some sort of base to go underneath it to hold this up so that there isn't any weight on the legs, because I think if you leave it for too long just resting on the legs, they will end up breaking and you'll have a few issues appear. But it is a really nice looking toy. And does it work? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to actually get it going. So here it is walking around in my living room. You can see it walks really pretty well. It does make an awful lot of noise, like a lot of these old toys do. The motors and gearboxes tend to give out quite a sort of screeching noise. So yeah, it's not the sort of toy you'd want to play with for a very long time. And I'm sure many parents who bought this for their kids were pretty annoyed with how loud it was, and maybe batteries went missing after a while, and this toy got put away because it does make quite a din. Certainly it kept my cat out of the room, but it is a really cool looking toy. I've now got one really complete one, as you see here. It's got all of the bits fixed up on it. It's got all of its weapons. The second one still needs a little bit of work. I've only got 5 good legs, so there's one leg that is a little bit short, and that means that when you try to get it walking, it falls over a lot, and I'm still missing the guns on that, but it's still a good way along to being restored. And when I started this project, I was really only hoping to have one fixed up, which is the one I have here. So I've got a second that, given a little bit more time, I will find the missing parts for that. As I mentioned earlier on in this video, if you want to check out how I repaired the legs, I'll put a link to that in the description and also at the end of this video. And if you need the sticker file for your own Spydor, you can get that from toypolloi.com, along with a whole load of other sticker replacement files. If you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video. And thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.